Hi everyone, just want to make sure my mic works. Can you hear me? Yes? Okay, perfect. Hello everyone. My apologies for the lighting. I am based in Mexico City. I'm originally Mexican and it's 1 a.m. here. So it's really dark. So my apologies if you can see me really well. I'm going to talk about really three big things. One, I'm going to give you an introduction about the whole price, just as it was mentioned. Thank you so much for the invitation once again. I'm super honored and happy to be with everyone today. Two, I'm going to talk about the importance of why youth have to be involved in changing the world through business and launching startups today. And third, I'm going to talk a little bit about what's basically on the screen. Like if I have a startup, like what are the financial mechanisms? Like how can I get funding? And two, what would be the different policies in my country that would allow me to, have a better journey when launching my startup? So back to the beginning. I'm going to do my best to keep this as short as I can, no more than 10 minutes. But my name is Nelly Andrade. I'm originally Mexican. I live in Mexico City, and I have the enormous, enormous privilege of working at the Whole Price. The Whole Price is a community of change makers that believe that you have the power to change the world. When I say you, I mean any young person from around the world, being a student or not, launching a startup or not. We believe that absolutely everyone have the creativity, the ideas, and the time to create bold startups that can make for good, for-profit enterprises to change the world. Now, every year we launch a challenge that gives out $1 million to the startup that, brings the most innovative solution to the table. And we also launch a bunch of activities along the year between accelerators, regional summits, festivals, demo days, parties, networking events, and honestly, it's lots of fun. I joined the Whole Price more or less 8 years ago when I was still in university. I was able to compete as a student. I was able to become an organizer as a campus director in my university. And through the process, for me, it was clear that there was no way that I could imagine myself in a career that wasn't through, the entrepreneurship arena and making an impact. For me, it completely transformed the way I saw social problems. And across my journey in the Whole Price, I've seen, I think, hundreds of thousands of young people, one, transform their current life into a better, to a better position, or get amazing jobs that they would never have had it before, or launching startups that are now valued at millions of dollars. Just to keep it short, at the Whole Price, we're also, we work directly with the United Nations. We host our finals at the UN every year, and we're generously funded by the Holt family, which is the way that, this is the way that we're able to, make everything happen and give out the $1 million every year. Just to keep it also short, the Whole Prize, for those that haven't heard it before, has been named as the Nobel Prize for the students by different media worldwide, and is one of the 10 most innovative startups in the world. So that's a little bit of the Whole Prize. Our main goal is, again, for you as a student to discover how you can change the world through business. And now, something that I wanted to make sure that I mentioned before talking a little bit further is that we are living, this year in particular, completely changed the way that students and people live their lives. But more than that, we're living in a moment where the biggest transfer of wealth will happen between one generation and another. What does this mean really is that you, as a student watching this live session right now, maybe you're not a fund manager yet. Maybe you're not the director of a company yet. Perhaps in the next 5 to 10 years you will. But even if you're not, you will have in your hands the power to make a decision of where to invest your money, what products to buy, and what brands to keep alive in the next 5 to 10 to 20 years in the future. This gives our generation a power that has never been seen before. My apologies again for my English. It's not my first language, so sometimes I forget some words. And in that between that logic, it makes it super important that we make sure that everyone in our generation understands what this power means and how the way finance and investment will start changing and shifting in the next 5 to 10 to 15 years. At the Whole Price, we believe that the future of business is impact, and that in the next decade or so, all of the businesses, and even when we talk about investment and when we talk about funding, will be directed into companies that are either bringing social change, just as we were hearing at the beginning, maybe with the circular economy, or something with the environment, or like this year at the Whole Price with our challenge around food. Talking a little bit again about the Whole Price, every year, as I said, we launch a challenge and we give $1 million to the best startup that is tackling that challenge. Some years we've had water, energy, housing, poverty, and many other challenges. But this year in particular, I'm super excited because the challenge is food for good. What does this mean? We're asking students to come up with innovative ideas that make food and show us how you can change the world and use food as a vehicle for change, mobilize economies, disrupt supply chains, and rethink the way everything around food is done: distribution, import, waste, delivery, and all of the process around food, so that we can really transform the lives of 10 million people in the next 10 years. So that being said, and moving into the next topics, and I see some comments here in the chat box. Please let me know if there's questions at the end, and I'll be very happy to start answering them. But moving into the next specific topic, which is in particular on financing mechanisms and innovative policies. What happens if I want to launch a startup? I'm going to make an example from my country. Mexico is a developing country still. So we had two really good examples a couple of years ago. If a country, let's say like Mexico, wants to be competitive, we need to, 1, develop technology, 2, make sure that the technology is also super innovative, and 3, we launch a lot of startups. Now, how do we make that happen? There are different incentives that have to happen in the way. A lot of programs like the Whole Price have to come into the country and start, putting a spark into the students, into the population, and helping everyone get motivated basically to start launching startups. But is that easy? Is that not easy? It depends a little bit, 1, on the policies, and 2, on the financial mechanisms. So how do we make this happen? I put some notes here just to make sure that I didn't forget. 1 is that we need the proper incentives and the proper governance from the institutions to make it happen. What does this mean? This means like agreements and the resources, or managing the resources around the way the decisions are made, are super important to make sure that, the right innovations are starting to come into place. 2, policy instruments. That means, how do we get new knowledge and new innovations into the market? This is super important because the policy instruments are the ones that will allow a country or big organizations to either make it less expensive to start creating innovations, or to start creating innovations and new knowledge through public institutions. In Mexico, we used to have, because it's not available anymore, an institution called CONACYT, and they would do funding for like strong scientific projects, to funding so that young students, if you were under 32 years old, you could travel to do your master's in specific areas that were competitive, like green energy or green MBAs, or, like alternative energy solutions or water. So specific topics where we wanted to have more innovations and more startups. And it worked really, really well. We started having a huge number of engineers going overseas and coming back and starting building startups. And the third one, in which they also helped, is that if you launched a startup that was a completely new technology on the topics that were super important for the country, you would get, let's say, like a tax credit. So it would be very, very, very attractive for you to be a young person studying overseas to get the, to get more knowledge and then coming back to launch a startup. Now, third thing important to mention is specifically on developing countries. Why? Because that's my personal experience, is that when talking about innovation and technology, it's not only about, making a country more competitive or building new stuff into the country, but very important to build on, the local capacities that we have in country. And that's really, really important, because that's also what we do at the Whole Prize. When we grow our program, and one of our biggest programs is called the On Campus program, where we go and select one student leader from a university, and that specific leader is in charge of building a whole movement in your university. In AIT we have had an amazing experience with the local On Campus program. But what happens, we deploy a whole training on leadership, on communication skills, and the local people on the ground are the ones really making the show work. And that's how it works in 1 to 121 countries where we work. So that would be the third important thing when talking about policy intervention and green innovations. And just not to make it super, super long, I just want to close saying, again, we're living in a historic moment in time. At the Whole Prize, we believe that everyone has a say in how to change the world, and that we are here to listen to everyone. So if you want to, change the world, if you want to have fun, if you want to discover the world of entrepreneurship and innovation, I promise the Whole Prize has its doors open, and it's the place for you to participate. We have our slogan, leading a generation to change the world, and that is happening today and every day during the year. Our applications are still open. If you want to participate in the Food for Good Challenge, you just have to go to wholeprize.org and apply, and it's only available for the next 2 to 3 days. Our applications are closing soon, if I'm not mistaken, by the 18th of December. So it's still a good time for you to participate. And other than that, we have a bunch of educational resources. If you're launching a startup, and again, maybe you don't know if in your country do you have the financial mechanisms for you to, launch your startup, trust me, at the Whole Prize, we have 1,000 resources available for you to discover how to launch your startup, even with zero budget at the beginning. So that's it from my side. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm going to leave the website information here, which is just wholeprize.org, and my personal contact too, in case anybody wants to reach out to me directly. And I'm gonna hand it off back to you.